Hello class, Mr. Long here. We have not done a video lecture for a long time, so I figured we start off with a video lecture on the introduction to World War I. So yesterday in class, you guys were responsible for labeling and filling out and coloring a map in regards to what Europe looked like pre-World War I, which is 1914. That map after the war ends in 1918 is going to look very, very different because, of course, with any war, one side will always lose. And usually, when a side loses, they're going to have to give up some land or territory. So, in this case, a lot of land or empires are actually broken up, and those territories are going to be um, put into new countries. They're going to be turned into new countries. So the picture that you guys are looking at right now is new types of weapons, which we're going to talk about later on with this unit. But World War I, guys, was the war to end all wars. Um, Many people felt that this war was only going to last for a few months, that it was going to solve a lot of problems, and that was going to be it. Um, but in reality, the war lasted for 4 years, and it's going to create a lot more problems that's going to lead to future wars, such as World War II. But we'll, of course, talk about that later on. So before we really get into the main reasons or causes of the war, we need to talk about two individuals. And the first one is Otto von Bismarck. Now, Bismarck is going to be the Chancellor of Prussia. Now, Prussia, guys, is a territory that belonged to the German Empire. There is no longer a Prussia, um, but just so you guys know, it used to be a part of the German Empire. Now, he unifies Germany. Now, hopefully we know what the term unify means. To unify something, that means to bring together. So he unites or brings Germany together. Now, Germany and France, guys, are going to be rivals. They don't like each other. They're going to fight several wars against each other. And one particular war that they fought was the Franco-Prussian War of 1871. And France is going to lose this war, and they are going to lose badly to Germany. As a result of this, Bismarck knows that France is going to want revenge on Germany, and he wants to make France pay, and he also wants to isolate France. Now, if you isolate someone, something, that means it's all by themselves or all by itself. No help from anyone or anything else. So his goal was to isolate France. So France cannot be helped by any other countries. Now, if you isolate a country and they're just by themselves, they're going to be a lot weaker, which means they're not going to be able to fight back. As a result of this, he also formed, excuse me, an alliance. And this alliance was called the Triple Alliance. And this was between Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. Not to mention did he also create this Triple Alliance, but he also made a treaty with Russia. Now, Russia, guys, is huge. It's a big, big country with millions and millions of people that live in the country. So Bismarck is pretty smart because he knows to the east of Germany and to the east of Prussia, you're going to have Russia. And at some point, Germany is going to have to deal with Russia. So it's better to be friends with Russia rather than be enemies with Russia. As a result also of the Franco-Prussian War, Germany is going to take the Alsace-Lorraine territory. Now, this territory is very, very important for trade and very important for industry. And this territory is between France and Germany. As a result of France losing the Franco-Prussian War, Germany takes that land from them. So at this point, guys, Germany and France don't like each other at all. Germany forms the Triple Alliance with themselves, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, and they also form another treaty with Russia. So moving on, you should already be familiar with the map of Europe prior to World War I breaking out in 1914. This is just another visual for you guys to take a look at with all the different countries. Once again, you're going to have the German Empire, you're going to have Austria-Hungary later on. Those empires are going to be broken up and they're going to be turned into brand new countries. So the next person that we need to mention is Kaiser Wilhelm II. And he takes over and he basically forces Otto von Bismarck to resign. Now, if you resign from your job, that means you're pretty much quitting. You're stepping down. You're no longer in power anymore. And Wilhelm II becomes ruler of Germany. Now, one of the first things that he does when he takes over as ruler of Germany is he does not renew the treaty with Russia that Bismarck did previously. Now, this is a red flag. This is a big no-no. If you do not renew your treaty with Russia, that must mean you do not want to be friends with Russia, or possibly you want to invade Russia in the future. So Wilhelm II does not renew the treaty with Russia, which means Russia is very upset about this. But since Russia is on the far east side, they need some friends. They can't be isolated themselves. And if something were to ever break out like a war, they're going to need some help. So Russia forms the Triple Entente. And this is an alliance between Russia, France, and Great Britain. Once again, it's called the Triple Entente. The problem is, though, is that Germany and Austria-Hungary are right in the middle of these countries. And it's going to be very tough if they do go to war because Germany is going to have to fight on two fronts. They're going to have to fight Russia on the eastern front, and then they're going to have to fight France and Great Britain on the western front if a war were to ever break out, which of course it does. So it's going to be very, very tough for Germany and Austria-Hungary just because of their geographic location on the map. If you guys can see, they are right in the middle of Europe. So it's going to be very, very tough for them to defend themselves on two fronts. Okay, so what I need you guys to do right now is I need you to take a look at your handout that you're filling all these notes in. And in the very middle, you will see a box that says events leading up to World War I. And then you have the word Main, spelt vertically, M-A-I-N. Now, each one of those letters, guys, is a very, very important letter because it spells out a major cause of World War I. So what I want you guys to do is in that box in the middle at the top, next to M, I want you to write the term militarism. Next to A, I want you to write alliances. Next to I want you to write imperialism. And finally, next to N, I want you to write nationalism. You don't really have to worry about spelling, but if you need to spell it correctly, those four terms are in the boxes below where you are writing this information. So let's talk about nationalism first. So you guys need to be filling in these notes in the nationalism box. We kind of already talked about this before with imperialism, but nationalism is a deep devotion to one's nation. It's when you take great pride in your country. You want your country to be the absolute best. And the only way for your country to be the absolute best is for, of course, your country to go out and get more land. But nationalism is going to cause a huge, huge competition between European nations. We talked about this before with imperialism and colonialism in Africa, the scramble for Africa. You have all these European nations trying to get as much land as they possibly can in Africa because the more land your country has, the more power your country has, the better off you are, the stronger you are. And that's what nationalism is all about, to be the strongest, to be the best. So examples of European countries doing this, of course, is Great Britain. You have France, you have Russia, you have Germany, you have Austria-Hungary, Italy, and Japan. All of these countries that I just mentioned are all competing for land, location, good location for trade and business, and of course, they are competing for natural resources. You need certain natural resources. like coal or oil in order to manufacture goods. That is what makes those steam engines in those factories go around and around and produce those goods. You're also going to have natural resources that the Europeans find out about, like gold and diamonds, and those are very, very valuable. So these Europeans want them. So for sure, 100%, nationalism is going to be a major, major cause of World War One. One of the causes, at least. Moving on to the next two causes, we've already mentioned. Imperialism is going to be another major cause, and militarism is going to be another major cause. Now, imperialism, guys, we should already know what it is. It's when a big country takes over a smaller country or a stronger country taking over a weaker country because they want something from them. If it's natural resources, if it's trading locations, if it's just more land, they want something from that smaller or weaker country. The problem is, though, is that your country is not going to be able to invade another country unless you have a very, very strong what? Of course, military. You need to have a very strong military. And that's what our third major cause of World War I is, militarism. Strong military equals a strong country. Countries needed to be able to quickly mobilize or move and organize their troops if they were to ever go to war. So militarism is the policy of glorifying military power and keeping an army prepared for war. You're not going to have a strong country unless you have a strong military. All of these causes intertwine and they mix with each other. And that is going to finally lead us to our last major cause of why World War I will eventually break out. And that is because of major, major European alliances. And I have already mentioned two. We have the Triple Alliance, and Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy all belong to the Triple Alliance. And then we have the Triple Entente, which is made up of France, Russia, and Great Britain. Now, this is something, guys, that you need to understand. An alliance is also like a friendship between two countries. Okay? It's an agreement. It's a friendship. So if one country is having issues, it is a responsibility of the other countries to back them up. That is what a good friend would do. But the problem is that a lot of countries are tied to each other through these alliances, which means if one country goes to war with another country, all the countries that are linked to those two countries going to war are all going to get pulled in. So that's why I always say if one country goes to war, they end up all going to war because of these alliances. It's very, very important, guys. You know the name of the two alliances and the three major countries that belong to each alliance. So now what I need you guys to do is I need you to go ahead and turn your handout over. We are finished with the front side. And we need to talk about some major events that will eventually lead up to, the breakout of World War I. So what I need to talk about first is the area where this is all happening. And the area that this is all happening, you guys hopefully see on the map, is known as the Balkan Peninsula. So it's all of the countries that are in yellow. So for example, Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Greece, Montenegro, those are all countries that would be a part of the Balkan Peninsula. But the Balkan Peninsula also has a nickname. The Balkan Peninsula is referred to as the powder keg. Now, what a powder keg is the image that you see in the middle of the screen to the left of the map. It's a big, big wooden barrel, and they would use powder kegs to fill with gunpowder. And of course, what ends up happening is that if you have a fuse or a string that's connected to the powder keg and you light that fuse will get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Eventually, no fuse left over, that powder keg will explode. So what you guys need to know, and I'll refer back to the powder keg for the rest of this lecture, but what you guys need to know is the name of the area, which is the Balkan Peninsula. You need to know its nickname, which is the powder keg, and you also need to know the exact location of where it's at in Europe, and that would be Southeast Europe. So I need you to actually write in Southeast Europe in the box where it says location. So event number 1, you are going to write this information in the first box that says event. So write down event number 1. The Ottoman Empire was in decline, so nations were trying to get away to form their own nation. These nations being Bulgaria, Greece, Montenegro, Romania, and Serbia. So going back real quick to this map, all of those countries that are in yellow used to be a part of the Ottoman Empire. Well, the Ottoman Empire starts to break up. It's becoming very, very weak. And all those countries that you see in yellow now become their own independent countries. So Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Greece, Montenegro, Albania, those countries are no longer a part of the Ottoman Empire, but rather they become independent countries. So make sure, guys, that you are filling this information into the box that says event. Once again, here's another picture of the Balkan Peninsula. As a result of this, so in the 3 boxes directly to the right, in that first box right underneath where it says result of event, I need you to write this in. New countries wanted to extend their borders and get bigger, which created tension. So I'm going to go back to this. Those countries that you see in yellow, they are brand new independent countries. They want to expand. They want their country to get bigger, more powerful. They're all about nationalism, pride in their country. But in order for that to happen, they are going to have to cross borders into other countries if they want their country to get bigger. But the problem is if they go into another country, they are now invading another country. So that could lead to a war, which eventually it will. Event number 2. I've already mentioned this, the term nationalism. But guys, I want you to please write down event number 2 in the second box. And please write down the information on this slide. So Serbia. Serbia, everyone, is a key country when talking about World War I and being responsible for starting World War I. So Serbia is very, very important. Serbia has a very high population of Slavic people. Now, guys, when I say Slavic people, they're not slaves. This is just another name for the Eastern Europeans, and they are an ethnic group. And there's lots of them that are spread out all throughout the Balkan Peninsula. So they're spread out all throughout those yellow countries. But what Serbia wants to do is Serbia wants to absorb or take in all of the land that these people live in. Okay? So if you look at this map once again, I'll refer back to this map back and forth, but Serbia is directly underneath Austria-Hungary. And Serbia wants to annex or add or absorb all the land where the Slavic people live. But if they do that, they are entering other countries, which means they eventually will be invading countries. But if they also invade and they absorb all that land, the problem is that Serbia is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more powerful. And other countries like Austria-Hungary, like Germany, don't like to see that happen because it becomes a threat, especially to Austria-Hungary, since if you guys look at the map, Austria-Hungary is directly north of Serbia. So Austria-Hungary looks at Serbia almost as a threat. They do not want them to absorb any other land. They don't want Serbia to expand. They don't want Serbia to get bigger or more powerful because it becomes a threat to them. So as a result of this, and I want you to write this in the second box on the far right, Austria-Hungary quickly annexes Bosnia and Herzegovina to stop Serbia from expanding. So what ends up happening is that Austria-Hungary, who's big, who's powerful, they go in and they look at these two countries, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they annex or they add both of those countries to their empire. And they do it before Serbia does it. And this creates very, very high tension between Serbia and Austria-Hungary. Each country, Serbia and Austria-Hungary, know exactly what the other country is up to, and they don't like each other at all. Finally, as a result of all this going on, the very, very last event is going to spark World War I. This is going to completely burn out the rest of the fuse that's connected to that powder keg, and there's going to be a huge, huge explosion. So event number 3, please write down event number 3 in the box. And it's the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Now, Franz Ferdinand is next in line to become the leader of Austria-Hungary. Okay? The leader of Austria-Hungary at this point is in his mid-80s. He's very old. At any time, he could pass away, and Franz Ferdinand will take over. Franz Ferdinand and his wife, Sophie, visit Sarajevo. And Sarajevo is in the country of Bosnia. And they actually go into Bosnia, and they are part of a parade in Bosnia. And they're driving in the back of their car. They have a chauffeur. And they're driving in their car when a 19-year-old Serbian named Gavrilo Princip comes up on the car and shoots both of them, killing both of them. Okay? This was an important event, guys, because the person that assassinated the next in line to take over Austria-Hungary is from Serbia. He actually was a part of a Serbian nationalist group. And they are going to pin that on Serbia. As a result of this, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia moves in troops near the Austrian border. Now, you need to write this information in the last box on the right-hand side for the results of the events. This is result number 3. But what I need to do is I need to go back a little bit, and I need to talk about the relationship between Russia and Serbia. There is a lot of Slavic people that live in Russia. Serbia and Russia have a very, very close relationship. They are very, very close, and they back each other up. And I want you to look at Russia and Serbia in this way. Serbia is the little brother to Russia. Russia is the big brother. So if Serbia is ever in need of help, Russia will go in and back them up. Okay? So even though Serbia is not a part of the Triple Entente alliance with Russia, Great Britain, and France, Russia will always have Serbia's back. We haven't even mentioned anything about Great Britain getting involved, France getting involved, anyone. At this point, it's only Serbia and Austria-Hungary. But if Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia, you better believe that Russia will have Serbia's back. And that's exactly what happens. The Russians will mobilize or move their troops in to the borders of Austrian-Hungary. The problem is when the Russians move their troops in, the Germans see what they're doing. The Germans don't like that. Remember, if one country goes to war, they will all go to war. So guys, this lecture was a very, very brief overview of major events leading up to World War I. We will go into more detail, but these are the basics. Please go back, and I want you to stop it, and I want you to make sure that you copy down all of the notes in the correct boxes. Okay? This is going to go ahead and conclude the lecture for today. Please, like I just mentioned, go back and um, review the notes if you need to, and make sure all the boxes are completely filled in.